In this lecture, you'll learn about ALUA and SLM. That's Asymmetric Logical Unit Access and Selective LUN Mapping. These are used to control what paths are going to be advertised to the client to access its SAN storage. ALUA stands for Asymmetric Logical Unit Access. It's an industry standard protocol used to identify optimized paths between a storage system and a host initiator. It enables the initiator to query the target, that's a storage system, about path attributes and the target to communicate events back to the initiator. Direct paths to the node owning the LUN are marked as optimized paths. So when you configure a LUN, you're going to specify the volume or queue tree that it is in. That volume or queue tree is going to be on physical disks, which are grouped into an aggregate. The node which owns that aggregate is going to be the preferred path. So ALUA will signal back to the initiator that those paths which terminate on the node which owns the LUN are the optimized paths. Other paths that are reported to the initiator are marked as non-optimized paths. If all of the optimized paths fail, the DSM will automatically switch to the non-optimized paths, which maintains the host's access to the storage. So the host is going to prefer to use the paths that terminate on the node which owns the LUN, but say if that node fails, it will fail over to the HA partner, and then the host can still access the LUN because ALUA is going to tell it the paths that it can use. Because this failover is really controlled by ALUA, it is required that the hosts which are using the SAN storage do have ALUA support. Okay, let's talk about the number of paths that should be reported to the initiators. At a minimum, the node that owns the volume containing the LUN and its high availability partner should present paths to the initiator. You can advertise more than that if you want to, and more paths do give more redundancy, which is a good thing. But at a certain point, that extra redundancy that all those extra paths give is not worth the extra complexity that they bring, because you're going to have loads of different WWPNs to include in your zones. If you're using Fiber Channel, or if you're using iSCSI, then that's going to mean lots of iSCSI sessions that you have to configure and manage. So having redundancy is a good thing. Obviously, we don't want to have a single point of failure, but we don't want to have too much redundancy because that would just add administrative overhead for no real added value. Client operating systems may also have an upper limit of paths that they can support as well, so you don't want to report more than that to the host. Best practice is that there should be a maximum of 8 paths for SAN clients. And coming up later in this lecture, I'm going to show you an example topology, and we'll talk about the paths that are going to be reported and the paths that are actually going to be used. Okay, selective LUN mapping is SLM. That reduces the number of paths from the host to the LUN. So if you've got, for example, a 8-node cluster, and all of the nodes are connected to 2 separate switches, Fabric A and Fabric B, well, that would end up with 16 paths being reported back to the host. But like we just said, you don't want to report more than 8. So a way that we can limit the amount of paths that will be reported is with SLM, Selective LUN Mapping. Selective LUN Mapping automatically sets ALUA reporting nodes to the LUN owner node and its HA partner node. And reporting nodes means that the node tells the initiator, hey, you can reach your LUN through me. If it's a non-reporting node, then it doesn't signify back to the host that it can be used to reach the LUN. SLM is enabled by default from cluster data ONTAP 8.3, so it has been there for a long time. Before that, though, so before SLM was available, port sets were used to reduce the number of paths, and port sets are still available now in ONTAP, so we don't use them now to reduce the number of paths that are reported back to the initiator. The reason that we can use port sets now is if you want to dedicate certain ports to a particular set of hosts. So say that if for performance reasons, you want to have some ports that are dedicated to some hosts, so they get the guaranteed performance of those, then you can use port sets for that. Okay, so let's have a look at this example topology and how ALUA and SLM is going to work. First off, best practice is to use at least one lift per node, per network, per SVM. So in our example here, we have got a 4-node cluster, and all of the different nodes are going to be hosting LUNs. So in that case, you want to have one lift per node. So you can see here, we have got 4 nodes. Each of the nodes is attached to fabric A and fabric B. So that means that we would have 8 lifts, one on each of the physical ports. We're going to be using SLM as well. So let's have a look and see how that is going to work with an example. And in this example, our LUN is on an aggregate which is owned by node 1. So in that case, node 1 is the owner, node 2 is going to be an HA partner, and because of the way the SLM works, node 3 and node 4 are going to be non-reporting nodes, meaning they do not tell the host that it can reach the LUN through them. Looking at the different paths, we've got 2 optimized paths. Both our optimized paths terminate on the node which owns the LUN, that is node 1. So we've got optimized path 1, which is through fabric A and terminating on node 1. We have got optimized path 2, which is terminating on node 1, and that is going through fabric B. These are going to be reported back to the hosts as the preferred paths that it can use. And the host can then either use active standby, where it uses one path and will fail over to the other if that path fails, or it can use active, in which case it will use both paths, and if one of the paths fails, it will just use the other one. We've also got a couple of non-optimized paths as well. That is from the HA partner. So we have got node 2 via fabric A, and we've also got node 2 via fabric B as well. So what's going to happen is if node 1 fails, or if the fabric A switch fails, or anything on the path to node 1 fails, then, and if traffic is not available through the optimized paths, then the host can go through the non-optimized paths. And if the node fails, obviously it will fail over to node 2. So that's a good thing because that is the node that will then be servicing the LUN. And I'll just go back a minute as well, just to make it obvious if it wasn't, that we might also have a LUN on node 3 as well. So if you were wondering, well, why have we even got lifts on node 3 and node 4? Well, if we've got a LUN on node 3, in that case, then node 3 will have the optimized paths, node 4 is its HA partner, it will have the non-optimized paths, and node 1 and node 2 will be non-reporting nodes in that instance. Okay, so that is how the paths are going to be signaled back to the host and how it knows which are the preferred paths to use. But then how about what is it going to do for, is it going to use active standby or is it going to use active? What's it going to do for its load balancing? Well, there's actually some different options in the host operating system. So looking at Windows for an example here, and here we're using the NetApp DSM, there's 6 load balancing policies that are available with the NetApp DSM, whether you're using Fiber Channel or iSCSI. The first one is least queue depth, and that is the default policy. With least queue depth, IO is sent active, so that's a good thing, and it's on the optimized path with the smallest current outstanding queue. It works as active standby if the LUN is 2 terabytes or larger. So if you do have a LUN which is 2 terabytes or larger, you're probably going to want to change that. The next available option is least weighted paths. Here, you, the administrator, define weight on the available paths. The IO is sent active standby on the optimized path with the lowest weight value. So you can choose which is the active path by setting the best weight on it. The next option is round robin. With round robin, all optimized paths to the storage system are used active when they are available. We also have round robin with subnet set. With round robin with subset, you, the administrator, define a subset of available paths. And IO is round robin load balanced between them. Use this one for LUNs which are 2 terabytes or larger. With round robin with subset, you can use non-optimized paths here, but it's not recommended to do that. It's recommended to just use the optimized paths, and we want the host to be sending the traffic active over both of those. So this is the recommended load balancing algorithm to use when you've got a LUN 2 terabyte or larger. The last two we have are failover only. That is active passive. Here, you, the administrator, define the active path. This can also use non-optimized paths. Again, that's not recommended. And the last one is auto-assigned. Here, for each LUN, only one path is chosen at a time. It's active standby. Okay, so those were the available load balancing options if you've installed the NetApp DSM on Windows. If you're using the Windows native DSM, so you haven't installed the ONTAP DSM, then the load balancing options here are very similar. First off, we have got least blocks, which is a different option. With least blocks, IO is sent down the path with the fewest data blocks that are currently being processed. And the other ones are equivalent to the same options that we had with the NetApp DSM. That's failover, round robin with a subset of paths, dynamic least queue depth, and weighted path. Okay, last thing that I wanted to tell you about here is what happens if you move a LUN. Because everything that we've spoken about up to this point is you saw that the system knows which node the LUN is on, and it knows which is the HA partner. And ALUA will report back the paths that terminate on the node which owns the LUN as the optimized paths, and the paths that terminate on the HA partner, they are reported back as the non-optimized paths. But what if you move the LUN? So again, using our topology as an example, what if you had a LUN on node 1 and then you now move that LUN to node 3? Well, obviously that's going to change things, right? And it is possible to move your LUNs around. Reasons that you would want to do this would be if the aggregate that the LUN is currently on is getting full and you need to move it to do some rebalancing. Another reason would be if the performance requirement changes, so you want to move it to a different aggregate which is made up of a different disk type. So it is possible to do that. You can move a LUN to another volume within the same SVM by using the volume move command, which will move the entire volume and everything in it, or you can use the LUN move command. We spoke about the volume move command earlier in the NAS section. The command syntax for this is LUN move start, and then you specify the vserver that the LUN is in, and then the source path. The example here is /vol1 /lun1, and then the destination path that you want to move it to, and the example here is /vol2 /lun2. The LUN move command works differently than the volume move command. Again, as you saw in the last section, when you do a volume move command, all the data is moved from one volume to the other volume, and when all the data has finished moving, a cutover then occurs to the new location. With the LUN move, it's different. Data is copied over the cluster interconnect. That's the same as with the volume move, but with the LUN move, the new location is used almost immediately. So it doesn't wait for all the data to move and then do a cutover. So the way that this works is that read requests for data that is not in the new location yet are fetched over the cluster interconnect. Any new writes go to the new location immediately. And obviously, after a little while, the data will all have moved over the cluster interconnect to the new location. So you can do a LUN move. A LUN copy is also available as well. So a LUN moves it from one location to another. A copy copies it and it keeps it in both locations. So let's look at how the operation of this works, because it doesn't actually update ALUA automatically for you. So you need to be careful about how you do this when you do move a LUN. So first thing you should do is change the LUN mapping to add the new reporting nodes using the LUN mapping add reporting nodes command. So with SLM, say that the LUN was on node 1, then node 1 is going to be reported as the optimized paths. Node 2 will be the non-optimized paths. Node 3 and node 4 are not going to advertise at all. So if you're moving that LUN to node 3, then what you need to do is you need node 3 and also node 4, which is its HA partner, to also report back to the host that it can reach the LUN through them. So the first thing that you would do in that example is you would add node 3 and node 4 as reporting nodes using the LUN mapping add reporting nodes command. The next thing that you need to do is you need the host to be updated with that information. So the way you do that is you perform a SCSI bus rescan on the hosts to discover the new paths. The hosts now see that the LUN is available through nodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once that is done, you can now move the LUN. That happens non-disruptively. ALUA signals a path status change to the host, and the host begins moving I/O down the new direct paths. So when the LUN moves to the new location, ALUA tells the host, don't use node 1 and 2 now, use node 3 as your optimized path, and use node 4 as your non-optimized path. And remember that I said just a minute ago that when you do a LUN move, it's available immediately in the new location. Once that is done, you can now change the LUN mapping to remove the old reporting nodes using the LUN mapping remove reporting nodes command. So once the LUN has moved to node 3 in our example, you can see that everything is working fine on the host and everything is stable. So you want to make sure everything is stable and finished moving before you do this. You can then remove node 1 and 2 from reporting to the host with the LUN mapping remove reporting nodes command. Once you've done that, do a SCSI bus rescan on the host again so that it will update and remove node 1 and 2. Thanks for watching. If you want to get hands-on practice with NetApp storage for free on your laptop, then you can download my free ebook, which you can see above my head right now. Also check out my NetApp Storage Complete course, which will teach you everything you could possibly want to know about ONTAP. Thanks.